Christos anesti.
Alithos anesti.
Christ is risen.
Truly he is risen.
Christos anesti.
Alithos anesti.
Father Christos and I are standing here in our beautiful cathedral courtyard, and today we're going to be speaking about Thomas, the apostle of Christ. But before we do that, we thought since we have the opportunity, we'd like to sing the Easter hymn with you. Of course, you'll join us from your home. We're going to do it for you right here. Christos anesti ek nekron, thanato thanaton patisas ketis entis mnimasi zoin charisamenos. Christ is risen from the dead, by death trampling down upon death, and to those in the tombs he has granted life. Christos anesti.
Alithos anesti.
So God bless you. We are here today to speak about Thomas, as we said, and we want to make a connection between last Sunday, which was the Easter Sunday, and we celebrated the resurrection of our Lord, followed by the Agape service. And in the Agape service, we heard about Christ appearing to the apostles after he rose from the dead, and one apostle was missing. We're not sure what he was doing at the time. We do know that the apostle Thomas was a very close part of the inner circle of Jesus, and he was with him for over 3 years, and he was not there at that moment. So when the other apostles told him that Christ appeared to them, he says, I don't think I can believe that unless I actually see Christ himself. And so we know that the story continues, and I'm going to read the gospel from this coming Sunday. But I'm going to read the part that picks off after the one we read from Easter Sunday. And it's from the Gospel of John, chapter 20. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see in his hands the print of the nails, and place my finger in the mark of the nails, and place my hand in his side, I will not believe." 8 days later, his disciples were again in the house, and Thomas was with them. The doors were shut, but Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." And he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands. Put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not be faithless, but believing." Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. So Thomas, unfortunately, because of this encounter with Christ, saying that he had to actually physically touch Christ, and we see here in the icon that Father Christos is holding that he wanted to touch the places where Christ was pierced in his hands, put his hands in his side where he was pierced with a spear, and so on, to be able to believe. But one of the great things that happens here is that, first of all, we know that none of us today can see the Lord physically, and yet we believe. So I want to go back to when I was a young priest in St. Louis, and the state there called Missouri is known as the Show Me State. And this goes back to something in the early or the late 1900s, 1899, when a politician there in Missouri said that, yeah, I hear all these things, but, I'm not going to be convinced unless you show me proof. And so on the license plates there, it actually says "Show me." And the Missourians are known as people that question everything. And if you say, well, this is really true, I want to show you this, and they'll say, well, no, I got to have more proof. You got to really prove it to me. I have doubts. So having doubts is something that even an apostle had. And this was Thomas, and we have doubts. And so to help us, Father's going to explain things that we see and things that we cannot see that help us reinforce our faith in the Lord.
So there are things that we can't see, but we know that they're there, and we can feel them or taste them or whatever it is. So a great example, I think the first one is air. Can't see it, you can't see air, but if we don't have it, we'll die. So air is kind of an important thing for us. This is a funny one. Insurance. You can't see insurance.
You pay for it.
You pay for it. You can't see it, but when you need it, it's there. How about
That sounds like an Affleck
it is?
commercial,
It would be
isn't
good. It would be good. Gas, like natural gas. Now, sometimes you might see it moving. But really, gas by itself, you can smell it, but you can't see it. You can't see it. Electricity is kind of the same way. Again, you might say maybe, through Nikola Tesla, you can see certain things. But again, electricity, you can feel it, you can't necessarily see it. Here's a funny one. Bed bugs.
Ooh.
Bed bugs you can feel, but not necessarily see. Here's another one, though. Salt. But I can see salt, sure. But when you put it in food and it's cooked, you can't see it, but you can taste it. Right? These are all things that we can not necessarily see, but we know that they're there. But I think the number one I think is love. You can't necessarily see love, but you know that it's there.
And you can experience it.
You can experience it. And I was thinking about Thomas, right? The love that he had, because Christ let him touch him. None of the other ones did that.
Right?
And he said that really important line that you said there, right? My Lord and my God. No other one said that.
He acknowledged.
He acknowledged that that's what it was. So sometimes, when we see, let's say, where young children are looking at their parents and their parents say, just do it because I told you, right? Do it because I know. They're saying it in the same way that it was that Christ was saying it to Thomas and to the apostles, saying, we saw him. I won't see unless I believe. Just do it because they told you. It might be true. It's going to be, and your parents are true. They say things that are true. They don't say things that are not true as parents. But we too, right? Father, I don't necessarily 100% understand it. Well, I don't understand 100% of it either, but I do know that I can feel it. I know that he's there, and I can tell you when he's not there. I can feel that.
See, that's important, Father, because having some honest doubts is normal.
That's right? This guy right here. Yeah, look at
saying, well, I need a little extra.
That's right.
And even when we sometimes we're going through something difficult, or we're praying, and we say, well, is God really up there? Is he listening to me and everything? And the thing is by having faith, we can reinforce the fact that we know that he's there. And then we see sometimes proof.
That's
also.
true.
Show me.
Like the show me state, that's right.
Right? So think about miracles. We're not going to be walking on the fountain here in the water, but we do have some water behind us.
That's right.
And we see by the lives of the saints of the church, like Thomas, that we know that these were human beings like us, like you that are watching. And you know that if you have just a little bit of faith, what was it that tells us in Scripture that we can move mountains?
That's right.
I mean, that's huge.
That's right. So having faith is part of this, and during this time when we're still in our homes and not being able to come out and all these shelter-in places and all the things that are happening, our faith needs to remain strong.
That's right.
And be there. Right?
And just like we celebrated Easter together, even though it was through live streaming, we celebrated. The resurrection took place. In fact, when we say it in our church, we say Christ is risen, not has risen. It's a continuous thing. He did it once, and he's always done it. It's forever. And that's why we remember it every year, and we have all these beautiful things in our church to remind us to not be faithless, but believing.
God bless you all, and we'll join us, of course, Sunday for wonderful services, starting, of course, at 8 o'clock with the Orthodox, 9:30 with liturgy, and please help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We're about 80% there, about 80% of the way there, another 20% to go. God bless you.
And Father, let's try a few Christos Anastas
Let's
in
do
other
it.
languages.
Let's
right?
do it. All right.
Christos Voskese.
Voice no voskrese.
Christos Amdead.
Adevărat aviat.
Christos Amemefuka.
Quele ame fufuka.
Amasia Kam.
Achadgan.
Did I say Christos Voskese yet?
Voice no voskrese. Christos dildi.
I don't know that one.
Achikatem.
Christos Anasi.
Achikatem dildi. That was Turkish.
Christos Anasi,
God
everyone.
bless you.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.